I had been wanting to make a welding table for a while, and was keeping my eye out for a source of heavy steel plate that wouldn't break the bank. I work for a heavy civil construction company, and they bought a smaller excavating company a few years ago. Last summer, some guys were cleaning up that company's old yard, and a scabby, rusty old welding table showed up in a scrap heap in our yard, so I took it home. With permission, of course. It helps to be homies with the owners. I unloaded it from my truck with a backhoe and put it on my shop floor, where it stayed for months. The top is just over a half-inch thick, something like 19-30 seconds or so. Starting January 1st, I've been spending a lot of time in the shop. One of the first things I did was start tackling this old welding table. I cut all the welds off the scabby Mickey Mouse leg setup, which took a few sessions. Even though it's ugly, the metal is all usable, so I took the time to cut and grind all the welds to keep all the pieces intact. There were a couple of chunks of plate as thick as the table slab, welded to the bottom, that were especially painful to get rid of. I got a bunch of rectangular tubing for the new legs from a local steel supplier. It came to $600, which means I'm now in the habit of keeping an eye on our scrap bin at work. Check out my video of my plasma cutter cart built almost entirely from scrap steel. I wanted adjustable height wheels to be able to fine-tune the working height and account for dips in my floor. For each wheel I cut 2 plates, one to weld onto the leg and one to bolt to the caster. On the inside of the leg plate is a welded nut with some gussets to stiffen it. Some thick ready rod goes between the 2 plates. I welded the new base and painted most of it before welding it to the top. I then had to deal with flipping it over. It wasn't that bad. I just used levers, a floor jack, and a bunch of dunnage to do it in stages. I made sure to do it with casters off so it didn't take off when it touched down. Just meant I had to jack it up to screw the casters in. I thought this table would have a cool contrast between the scarred up, weirdly shaped top and the crisp, neat lines of the base, old and new together. There was a lot of cleaning and grinding done on both sides of the top. I like how the one corner tapers out. I thought the end would be a good place for a vise, so I drilled and tapped for mounting bolts. I like the idea of an extender for longer workpieces, which I've seen on lots of YouTube videos, so I added one. I believe the square tubing is 1.25 inches nested inside 1.5 inches. It's a very snug fit, no slop. I used nuts and bolts to get the height just right. I did have to remount the existing holes to get decent enough bolts in there. Here's the rack for grinders and clamps. The 1-inch flat stock was from one of the pieces I'd cut from the original base. I drilled and tapped holes to mount this old power bar. This is super handy. One extension cord to the table and you're good to go. I welded a few pieces of 3/8 round stock to store cutting wheels, flap discs, and wire brushes. The bottom shelf is from some scrap expanded metal that was on the way to the recyclers. The brace across the middle is 2 pieces of angle iron back to back that came from the original legs. I made a hinged tray from steel plate. It ended up pretty heavy, so I decided to use expanded metal for the bottom of the second one. The second tray can store larger things and let dust and debris from grinding and stuff fall through the holes. Here's me finishing that second tray. Thanks for watching.